What is mercy? In a world that is full of violence and pain and coldness, where on earth do we find mercy? It's hard to see, which is why it is so important that we look for it. That's why Pope Francis has declared this year an extraordinary Jubilee of Mercy. Mercy is gift freely given, no matter who the recipient is or what they've done. The theme for all of Francis's pontificate has been Miserando atque elegendo, in English, by mercy and by choosing. It means that through God's mercy, we are all chosen for greatness. It refers to the Pope's brokenness and reminds us that we are all in need of God's mercy and that Christ gives it to us freely. When we realize this, the natural reaction is to give that same gift of mercy to those in our world who need it the most. Ultimately, mercy is an act. It is a verb, a movement by one person for the sake of another. This is what the Year of Mercy is all about. It's about us, you and me, receiving and giving mercy, being like Francis and putting our love into action. The March for Life is really a march for mercy. It is a begging for mercy from God for the sins of our country. And not just the 50 million abortions committed since 1973, but the sins of all of us who have not done all we can to build a culture of life. It's a begging for the merciful support for women who have listened to the lies and chose to have an abortion. Begging for mercy on all the men and women involved in the abortion industry. Generation Life is a movement of mercy. You young people are ushering in a new generation. A generation in support of life and showing mercy to those in need. Your passion is an inspiration. Your zeal gives hope, and your potential to build a culture of life is immeasurable.
When I was 19 years old, I was in a college internship at Disney World for 4 months. Once that 4 months was over, I was headed back home. When I returned, I rekindled with the old crush from middle school, and one thing led to another. I found myself pregnant in September 2012. Pregnant by someone I barely knew and who could care less about me. When I found out I was pregnant, I called my baby's father, and all he had to say was, "You're going to have to get an abortion." I remember crying nonstop that day. I couldn't get my head around why this was happening to me. Sometimes he would repeat that he wanted me to have an abortion. Other times he denied my unborn. Time went by and I was 4 months pregnant and nobody knew. I hid it the whole 4 months. We made a decision and I walked into Planned Parenthood on September 26th. I will never forget that day. I was alone and afraid. I walked through a bitter dark hallway into a waiting room filled with young women crying and hurt with no comfort. I was 4 months, so the procedure that would take place would be the vacuum suction. Imagine a vacuum sucking your baby right out of you into tiny pieces, but I thought nothing of it during the time. It was about a week later, a friend of mine from church introduced me to Thrive, a Christian pregnancy resource center who helps women face unplanned pregnancies. He told me that I should go and visit and get some advice. He said they were really good at what they do. A few days later, it was the day I was scheduled for my procedure, and God led me in a different direction. Instead of Planned Parenthood, I was on my way to Thrive. God works in mysterious ways because I was $100 short and I didn't have a designated driver for when the procedure was done. When I walked into Thrive, it was a breath of fresh air. I had later met with Jeannie, an advocate, who told me that God would see me through and they would do anything to help me. That was the confirmation I needed. I seen the ultrasound and realized that it was a baby moving around inside of me. I knew then that I had to choose the parent. Time went by and the people at Thrive helped me all through my pregnancy. 4 months passed and I had a doctor's appointment on February 18th. I was placed in bed with the baby monitor to measure movement and heart rate. I sat there for about 30 minutes and my baby was not moving a muscle. It was then I had to be given epidural and an emergency C-section had to take place. I was so scared and had every possible negative thought you could think of. I just wanted her to come out alive and well. The procedure began and moments later, Kylie Rose was born at 11:22 a.m., weighing 3 pounds 13 ounces, and I was now a proud parent of a preemie. She did struggle at birth and stayed in NICU for 2 weeks. Thrive helped me choose life. They helped me see that my life had purpose, and so did Kylie. God has shown mercy by placing certain people in my life in certain situations in order for me to realize that with Him, nothing is impossible. Now I extend the mercy gift by sharing my testimony and saving a life or two, day by day, little by little. Always put God first and everything else will fall in place. I promise. And remember, even the smallest person can change the course of the future. J.R. Token.